Mike, great to have you with us.
Pleased to be here.
I've cited SMMT figures pretty much every month since I became a financial journalist many moons ago. It is a widely respected trade body. And I think it's worth pointing out to On the Money listeners and viewers who may not be aware, you know, we're not maybe the car maker we once were, Austin, Healey and Morris and all the rest of it. But you are here representing a sector that employs the thick end of 1 million people in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. When people think of the automotive industry, a lot of you do think back maybe to the 60s and 70s, a lot of the brands. Our record year of production was like 1974, I think it was. But, you know, the industry is still thriving. It is still a massive contributor to the economy in the UK, a massive, as you said, employer. The nature of the brands that operate here have probably changed. You know, you think of the big brands that manufacture here, obviously Jaguar Land Rover, the traditional one, but Toyota, Nissan, BMW, Stellantis, as well as the truck manufacturers, as well as the van manufacturers. And then you've got that, you know, what is the world envy? Those brands like Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Aston Martin, Lotus, Morgan. I mean, these brands are synonymous with quality, performance, and any other country in the world would kill for that sort of diversity of an industry.
Now, we are still knocking out a lot of cars in this country. You know, talk to people who work at Nissan up there in the northeast, people in Oxford. We're still making lots of cars across the West Midlands, of course. It's still a major car manufacturing centre. But a lot of the cars we're making, they're brands, they're companies owned by overseas companies. Now, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
We are an open, globalised economy. But I've always been concerned that there's so much wealth in the UK and our old money doesn't seem to want to back our traditional manufacturing sectors. Do you share that frustration a little bit?
To a certain extent, I mean, the automotive industry, it's a global industry. To really operate, and you've seen it a lot in recent years, consolidation has been taking place because the level of investment that you need...
Companies getting bigger.
Yeah. The level of investment you need is massive because we're shifting from petrol and diesel into electrified cars. Now, these are real massive, big-ticket investments, so you need that scale to be able to do so. Now, I think it's a fair point you're making about the way people perceive or willing to invest in manufacturing in the UK. Manufacturing is about 10% of UK GDP.
Yeah, we're still a top 10 global manufacturer.
Absolutely.
We're still serious.
Automotive terms, you know, we're certainly, you know, top 15 globally. And I said we've got the brands. What we really need, though, is to make sure we're as competitive as we can be, because we need to attract the investment, whether it comes from the UK or whether it comes from abroad. You want the investment because you want the jobs and the manufacturing here in the UK.
I want to come on to that, but just before I do, Mike, there are signs of improvement. You are working your way through the cost of living crisis, the cost of lockdown crisis, some would say. Those supply chain issues across the globe have really hindered complex manufacturing companies like the ones you represent. Is there now a significant easing in the supply chain? When's production going to get back up to pre-lockdown levels, Mike?
It's still going to take some time. The last 2 months, we finally turned the corner, if you will, in terms of output. I mean, this is really long COVID. What's really inhibiting production, not just in the UK, but globally, is supply chain issues, as you said, especially in our case, semiconductors.
Yeah.
Most of those
electronic gizmos, they're in everything, right?
Yeah, most of those are made in Asia. When we went into the lockdown back in 2020, you know, automotive manufacturers had to pull back their production because a lot of the plants had to shut. So the semiconductor manufacturer says, turn that production volume more to the type of goods that you're going to be using in a lockdown. Think games consoles, telephones, TVs and so forth. And the way the semiconductor industry works, it works 24/7, full capacity. It's not a case that we'll put on some additional shifts to catch back that demand. You have to build new production capacity.
And that
doesn't happen overnight.
There's no tap to turn.
No. So in terms of automotive, it's beginning to ease. It'll ease more as the year goes on, but this is still going to be an issue with us through next year, potentially into 2024. So it's a slow recovery out of COVID.
Let's talk about the future. We are at a kind of policy inflection point we've been discussing here on The Money today, as we discuss every day. You know, rising interest rates, the energy crisis, the tax debate here in the UK and beyond. What do you want to see from the next Prime Minister of this country in terms of assisting one of our major sectors, which you are now here representing at a very senior level, if I may say so? This rising corporation tax from 19 to 25%, what's that going to do to your members? The skills shortage, ongoing issues with high business rates.
Yeah. It's a lot of people always assume business all the same. All they want is reduction in corporation tax. To be honest, for manufacturing, corporation tax doesn't make a huge amount of difference. What matters is some of those other issues. What do you need to encourage that investment? Business rates for manufacturing is the highest in Europe.
Because a business rate, just to explain, not to you, of course, it's a tax levied on the value of your physical plant, of the property in which you do your business. And of course, if you're a manufacturer, the factory's worth a lot of money.
And it's perverse because, you build a shed and it's got a rateable value of X. You put the plant and machinery and all of a sudden it's 10 times that. So it actually mitigates against that investment. That is one area. Certainly skills, absolutely. The apprenticeship levy, it doesn't really work for our sector. But overall, I think the key thing we need, though, is a competitive framework. The most obvious issue, I think, at the moment is energy costs. In the UK...
No energy price cap for businesses,
No
right?
price cap. In the energy... Going into this price volatility, we already paid about 59% more for our energy than our competitors in Europe.
Yeah.
As a result, that's going to cost the industry some 90 million pounds extra this year. That's about 2,500 jobs. I'd rather be paying for jobs than energy costs.
Let's just focus on this energy, on the apprenticeship levy that you discussed. A lot of people watching and listening, they may have worked in manufacturing. They may be thinking, why can't my kid get a job in manufacturing? We're meant to be great at manufacturing. What is it about the UK that we just can't seem to do vocational training very well?
It is. It's a long-standing problem. One of the real issues is first of all, is awareness. And there's often, when you think about manufacturing, the perception, it's metal bashing. It's not. You go into McLaren, you go into Bentley, you go into Jaguar Land Rover. These are antiseptically clean places, very high-tech. The reason that we have a shortage of production isn't a shortage of metal, it's a shortage of computer chips. The sophistication, the type of skills that we need. But to have those, you need to get people interested in the sector and doing the right subjects at school. Think about physics, think about the STEM subjects, because your career possibilities then are almost limitless.
And indeed, woodwork and metalwork. We need to. It's a very dignified thing to work with your hands, and I'm sure a lot of your engineers, a lot of your shop floor workers, the guys and girls in the blue overalls, they're making serious money, right? Because their skills are sought after. And you need to employ them. We
generally pay sort of 20% more than the regional average wherever we're located, and we're located around the UK. But again, if you think about the vehicles, think about especially the high luxury vehicles that we have, the quality of the craftsmanship that's in there. Those are skills that the UK is the world's #1 in high luxury sports car manufacturing. We don't want to lose that title, and you need the people to make sure you've got the skills that will ensure you've got a future for that in the UK. We currently have them. We need to make sure the next generation is brought through.
So a lot of young people will be watching this show. It's the summer holidays, people off school, people off university. Make your pitch, Mike Hawes, for a career in the UK automotive sector, for a career in UK manufacturing.
I think for any young person, if you want precisely a career, not just a series of short-term jobs, but a career, automotive is as good as any. The variety is in there from sales, marketing, manufacturing, purchasing, HR, finance. The technology is there. We're not a sunset industry. The transition that's taking place is incredibly exciting. It's more change going to happen in the next 10 years than the past 100. You want to be a part of that because it's a long-term career which will give you a tremendous amount of personal satisfaction and a great life too.
Well, Mike Hawes, let me say here publicly, we really value what the SMMT does. On the Money is a young show. We haven't been going for very long, but it's great to have you, the SMMT Chief Exec, appear here today for our latest edition of Money Talks.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks very much indeed.